What would you do with an extra $500,000 coming into your business? What would you do with an extra $1 million coming into your business? What would you do if you had an additional 10 to 20 hours a week inside of your business? That is the power that Private Practice CEO is giving to our clients. I'm going to tell you all about how our clients inside of Private Practice CEO are getting these results and how you can too. Welcome to CEO Conversations, the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of CEO Conversations, the Private Practice Podcast. It is Brandy Mabra, and I am super excited because I am here to change your life in 2026. Yes, let's go. So I remember this was at beginning, mid part, kind of in the middle. And I always like to tell this story because I think it's very clear for maybe where you're at. It probably will resonate if I had to guess. I know with my current clients, it resonates where they were. And fast forward to where they are now, it's completely different. But I remember specifically so many nights sitting at my desk, and the office would be so quiet. You know, there wasn't patience, there was no team. It was just me with my thoughts and whatever I was working on at that time. And I remember always thinking like, man, I wish I could have that during the day. I wish that I could have this type of peace during the day or this type of focus during the day. And it was amazing, right? And so a lot of my career, I spent chasing that peace. And so between holidays, I remember there was one night, it was New Year's Eve, and we had closed the office like early that day. And I stayed after on freaking New Year's Eve because I had to get ready for the next year. And the office was quiet. Like I chased that peace, not knowing that I was chasing that piece because what was happening during the day was lack of leadership, lack of boundaries, lack of efficiency, lack of just proactiveness, and it would chase me into me being at my desk sometimes at midnight. There were plenty of times where I would have to call my mom and say, hey, can you pick up my son? There were plenty of times where on the weekends, my son would have to come to the office with me because I had more work I had to do. And he would be sitting on the floor, and even fast forward to today, if you ask my son's name is Braylon, he will tell you, I have no desire to work at a desk in a glass building. And the reason why is because he remembers, even now, like almost 20 years old, he still remembers coming to the office with me, sitting on the floor, being bored as all get out, coloring and me trying to entertain him in any kind of way, shape, or form. And all he wanted to do was just spend time with me and play. And I'm at my desk, right? There have been stories where I've told you losing 6 figures worth of revenue. Like there's just so many things that I remember being burned out, tired, and exhausted and missing key precious moments that I could have prevented. Which is why we're specifically talking about why I want to change your life for 2026 and why there is a better way. It took me years to figure out that there was a better way. It took me 2 years without taking a vacation. It took my team like saying, Brandy, you look so tired. It took the me hiring an intern and him calling out like, Brandy, why are people in and out of your office like all the time? And it was of my own creation. So when I think about the work that we get to do inside of Private Practice CEO, when I think about the work that we are gearing up for 2026, there is like a deeper mission that is behind the work that I do. I don't want anyone to be at their desk at midnight. I don't want anyone to be spending their New Year's Eve at their practice instead of spending time with their family. I don't want anyone to have to be burned out and tired and exhausted and for them to chase peace or for them to chase like the focus. And so the work that we do is life-changing. We just came off of our retreat in Cayman Islands, which I talked about, Cayman Islands. And with that retreat, there was a client who specifically said that her husband did not understand the investment that she made inside a private practice CEO at the time, but he could feel the change in their lifestyle. He could feel how she was showing up to her business. He could feel the focus that she had. And so there's a lot of partners that actually talk about how their partners are like, well, I don't know what Brandy's doing, but I don't know what's happening. And even this morning I was talking to a client, and she was saying her husband was like, whoo, man, because she left a bit. I'll be honest, she took a break, and her husband was so happy because we are now working together again. And she's like, yeah, no, Brandy's back. Brandy's back to get me back in order, And so sometimes people will ask me like, okay, well, what's your secret? What makes you different from any other private practice coach? Because there's a lot of private practice coaches, I'll be honest. And I think what honestly sets me apart is the fact that how we work with our clients is so intentional. I am teaching from a place of 8-figure, 9-figure businesses. And a lot of times people don't have that type of expertise. I am incorporating everything inside of private practice CEO that leads to transformation. So from the conversations that we have, every week we meet and go deeper. We are making sure that our clients have mindset shifts. So like the freedom formula that we really implement, and the freedom mindset where you don't have to be the one to do everything inside of your practice, is embedded throughout the whole program. There is the talk of structure, where there's a lot of times people are just doing and they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Their team doesn't know why they're doing what they're doing. Like they don't understand the assignment, the lack of clarity, the lack of vision. So there's structure that our clients end up getting, and the time that they get back on their calendar is amazing. The amount of money that they make year over year is amazing. So we have clients who are making 500,000 plus year over year. That's game changing, right? So what would you do with an additional $500,000 in your pocket? What would you do with an additional 7 figures, coming into the practice? Like, what would you do with that type of money, right? So we talk about things in such a deeper way. It's more than just fluff. Like, it is real, straight up business strategy. We also work with our clients and their teams, and so I think that makes us different. There's just so many things that we are doing to make sure that our clients are set up for success. The other piece of it is private practice CEO is not a membership. This is not like an online Facebook community where there's tens and thousands of people. No, like we work with a boutique version of clients. And so I know our clients by name. I know their team members by name. I know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, because at this point in time, we have clients who have been working with us and inside a private practice CEO for 2+ years. I can go back and say, well, you remember when? A lot of times they'll learn things a couple years back, and then they're like, oh yeah, I forgot. We did talk about that. Now I'm ready to implement it, right? And so it's just a deeper way of working with people. And because of that, then that's the transformation that we get. I think the quarterly retreats that we do are amazing. They're always Lux. We're getting ready for our December retreat. So that way everybody has goals and KPIs going into 2026. I am currently traveling now to meet with our clients and their leadership teams, because their leadership teams are now needing to catch up with the owner and their transformation. And so the work that we're doing, it just goes deeper. It goes deeper. And so I think I wanted to have a dedicated episode to really talk about the work that we're doing, because first of all, you won't know unless if I talk about it. The other piece of this is that I want to help more people, but it's always coming from a place of not like tens and thousands of people. I want to make that type of impact, but how I want to make that impact is different compared to what's happening inside a private practice CEO. But it's important for you not to be the person who's sitting at the desk, who's burned out, tired, and exhausted, and wanting to throw in the towel, or feeling broken because you don't have the money that you need. We have clients who, because their practices are doing so well, who are retiring their husbands, which sounds so weird. I remember a couple years ago, I would see, I'm like, really, retiring your husband? And it's like, no, really, yes, we are retiring husbands. I think that's just amazing that we're making that type of life-changing, that like those life-changing things happen for our clients. We have clients who are buying new homes. We have clients who are now officially in positions to open up new locations, buying new locations, and not just going in and buying we have clients who are also buying practices and making sure that as they're doing that work, there's structure behind it. My background is mergers and acquisitions and so it's just really fun to watch in the midst of this crazy economy, how our clients continue to win. And I'll be honest, going back to the client that I just said, for the folks who sometimes go through program, because technically private practice CEO is 6 months. I always say you'll get in for 6 months and you're going to want to keep going. And so we do have sometimes clients where they'll do 6 months and then they'll jump ship. And then it's very interesting to watch, because for the folks who continue to stay, who end up doing the work, the amount of growth that happens in their practice compared to the folks, because we still allow for some of our alumni to come back to retreats and things. And it's different, it is different. So there is a specific cohort that I think about. And one client, she did 6 months, which was great. Transformation, you get transformation regardless. And she stopped working with us. And then the same client who was part of the same cohort is now at a 7-figure practice. And one of our clients, unfortunately, her practice has fallen off. So I think some of the accountability and support that you need as you continue to grow and as you continue to up level, as you continue to stretch yourself, as we're continuing to call you out on what you want, and then making sure that you have the business strategy that you need, there's just nothing like it. There is nothing like it. It's priceless. Yes, it is priceless. It is priceless. I cannot say that enough. So a lot of times there's two objections, and I've said this before. There's always two objections that people always come up with when it comes to private practice CEO: money and time. And I know a lot of folks are probably thinking like, oh, I can wait until January. I want to wait until January. I'm just going to wait. I got an email this morning talking about I'm going to wait till the end of Q1. Sure, I am not the one that's going to sit there and push you, because for the folks where private practice CEO is really for them, that decision's super easy. They might need to be like, okay, I know I'm a yes. Let me think on it. I need some time to process. Everybody's different, but you can still tell like, oh yeah, they're coming. They're going to move forward. For the folks where it's like takes a long time for people to make a decision, it's like molasses, then it is like once they get inside of the program, once they eventually make that decision, I hear the same thing always. Why did I not make this decision faster? Why did I wait so long? And so what happens is when you wait, then you are costing yourself more money. You are costing yourself more stress. You are costing yourself more time. You are costing yourself more energy, because you are in your own being of things. And I know for the clients that we work with, they are amazing. They are super smart. They are highly educated. There is nothing that they cannot do. 110%. Part of my job is I move them faster. So they are able to achieve things at a higher level. And even with the client who made $500,000 more this past year over year, she did not think that she could do it. And I already knew that she could. So it's priceless to have somebody who can see what you cannot see because of your own mindset, your own blind spots, your own ways of talking yourself out of something, the strategy, that from being proactive. And so we're also going to talk about in another episode, the economy and just some things that you really need to think about when we talk about like being a steadfast leader. But the leadership that they're able to show up with inside of their practices is priceless. And so when you wait too long, usually what happens is there's chaos that's happening. Your team doesn't know what to do. And then you just throwing spaghetti at the wall all year long, just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And I know even within the program, and that's with me, there's still sometimes where our clients, they can kind of go off the beaten path. And I'm like, wait, where are you going? What are you doing? What's happening? And so I'll be able to get them back in. I know even from my own experience, I'm in a mastermind. And I have my own support that I surround myself. And this is with 20 plus years of business management and leadership experience. And I know I can go off the beaten path, And so there's all kinds of things that can happen, especially as you're growing a business, scaling a business, and entrepreneurship in general. Having the support, the community, that's the other piece of this. Like, the community that our clients get is amazing. Like, there are group chats and they do things together. Like, there's 2 clients who went to the Beyonce concert together. And they didn't know each other before Private Practice CEO. And so there's real bonds and friendships and things. And so one of our clients just said that a lot of times people, even teams, especially when you start to have a lot of growth, teams sometimes will try to, do we have to move so fast? Or do we have to do this? Or, like the mindset, sometimes family members, well, what happened? What are you doing? Because they're making more money. Their lifestyles are changing. And that can sometimes throw you off. And so the community is there to remind you who you are, and what is possible for you. And that this is not by happenstance, right? That you have the goals that you want to achieve, the purpose that you've been called for, the intentions that you have for yourself. Like, all of this is by design. And also the enemy is right there to remind you that you cannot do it. So I believe, for me specifically, I'm faith-based. If you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you know that about me. And so I know 110% that God will always give you the resources that you need to be successful. And so I know, especially for the folks inside of Private Practice CEO, God has assigned them to me. He has placed me in their lives as a resource so they can go after everything that's been put on their heart, and that they will have the mindset that they need, the resource that they need, the business knowledge that they need, the leadership skills that they need, the vision, clarity for the vision, the communication part, so that way the team understands the assignment. All of that is given to them. And I know that all of it is by design. So I am off of the soapbox, I think, of things when it comes to Private Practice CEO. And so I think one of the main questions I always get is, what are the top 3 breakthroughs? And so one thing that I can promise you is that inside of Private Practice CEO, you will make more money. 110% you will make more money. You will have more structure within your practice. You will have more time back on your calendar. And the 4th thing, which is the bonus, especially if you have a team, you will have a high-performing team. And when you have a high-performing team and when you have strong leadership, everything else just falls into place. Everything else just falls into place. So if you are in a place where you're struggling inside of your practice, if you are in a place where you feel unsure about your next steps, if you are thinking about 2026, I have big goals, I really want to do some amazing things. If you have leaders inside of your practice and they are struggling with their leadership and they are needing some training up, then Private Practice CEO is the perfect place for you to land. And we have a capped number of new clients that we are going to be working with. So Private Practice CEO is the best place for you to reset your business, reclaim your power, and for you to land in 2026. Head to the show notes, or if you're watching, to the description box, and I will see your application for when you apply. See you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.